disappeared off of my thing. And it asked, how do we get connected with the youth from our church? And that is our intro for our next session, because we're really excited to have Cyler and Danielle that have come now from Tallahassee by way of McClenny. And they're going to talk to you about connecting with your youth ministries. Okay? So, all right. Give them a hand. You can still, hey, keep eating and keep sending me your texts. We're going to have some more giveaways later. And come on in. Let's get going.
Hello, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to Summit.
Stop that, weirdo.
Notice how they put us right after the food, when you're all asleep and you have no energy and you can't really pay attention. They were really nervous that we'd mess this up, so they put us at the end of it. We're talking a little bit more than about youth ministry, but we do have a youth ministry plug. We felt really impressed to talk about the importance of relationships, because relationships is what helped us really get involved with ministry and really enhanced our relationship with God, was relationship with others. So we're going to talk about that today.
We want to really emphasize that it's important to make the most of the time you have with people, whether it's just a one Sunday visit, they pop in and they pop out, or they're with you for 4 years, 7 years, for their whole life. However long you're able to build a relationship with people, that's what we want to talk about. Making it count, making your time investment worthwhile.
Yep. And I'm glad that you guys don't have a full figure, because I didn't bring the right shoes and I'm wearing my Walmart sneakers. But just wanted to throw some humor in there, because I'm scared to death of cameras. So now I'm in front of one and have to talk to you guys. We were going to be talking about getting leadership involved as one of the first things, and fulfilling the prophetic words that so many churches have in our conference. There's so many conferences that have been told that their congregation is about to explode, to watch out, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Well, if we really believe that and we're really confident that it's coming, then we have to be prepared. And if we don't have the right leadership in place, then we're not going to be prepared to handle what's coming. And if we can't handle what God's giving us appropriately, then it won't stay. So if we know that it's coming, if he's spoken it over us, then we need to be able to be prepared. So we're going to talk about first the importance of building relationships with people as they come in, to help them find out where they may want to be placed or where they may need to be placed in leadership.
But either way, whether you've had the prophetic words or you haven't, I think as ministry leaders, as people who are, wanting to be good disciples of Jesus, we want to see growth in our churches, not for numbers, but for the simple fact that we're people. That's our job. Our job is to be about people. So it's all of our desires to see growth. So, relationships are the key to that.
Doc O did the 24 to double, and I probably should have been at 24 of those, but I was not. But I did do a few of them, and I remember some of the things that he really hit on almost every single one of the ones that I went to, and it was intentionality. He said that you needed to be intentional with your planning. You needed to be intentional with your execution, and you needed to be intentional with your relationships. And that sounds kind of weird, because I am a guy that's all about authenticity and are you being real or are you being fake and what is this? But at the same time, I'm learning that there is such a necessity of being intentional with every relationship that you have, regardless of how authentic it is, because if it's not intentional, then the relationship could be stagnant and might not be going somewhere.
But even in being intentional, he talked about being authentic. And, I'm probably more of a person that tends to lean on authenticity. It is so important for us as leaders or as people that are sitting in a church serving behind the scenes. We have to be authentic. We have to be able to look in the face of the people that are walking in and see past what they can do for us, but be able to get at eye level and hear about their day-to-day life and hear what's going on at home and how we can be involved in life with them, the good and the bad and everything in between. From the time they walk in, I was thinking about it, because one of the hardest times I think to be authentic is whenever you just get one Sunday, because you don't know if people are going to come back. How can you be authentic with somebody who maybe you get 15 minutes to talk to? You don't just go up to somebody and say, tell me about your heart. You can't be real churchy and weird like that. People get weirded out and they're like, whoa, man, I don't even know your name. My heart's fine, thank you. But how can you be authentic that way? Well, a lot of that has to do with having people in place that are friendly faces that welcome them from the time they walk in. They very casually let people know what is available at your church. What ministries do you offer? Do you serve kids? Do you serve the seniors? How can they get plugged in without forcing them to get plugged in? Just how can you carry on a conversation with them? And then after church, make some space to talk to them one more time. Say, we're really glad you're here. Give them an opportunity to fill out a connection card. So that way, during the week, you can have people in place that follow up and just say, we were so glad to have you and your sons and your husband here. It was really great to see you. Hopefully we'll see you again type thing. It's important to be authentic even if you get only that one Sunday.
And she talked about how being authentic, you can walk up to somebody and explain to them how the church can benefit them. And that kind of shows that you're looking out for their family. You're trying to show them how your church is a family ministry, not just a place to go on Sunday. You're letting them know about the things that happen throughout the week and letting them know how being a part can really enhance their life more than they ever thought that church could. But that being in a family of believers and falling in love with God in a new way could really enhance their life. But the only way to really advise them of that, or to have your leadership know how to advise them in that, is with being intentional. Yeah. You have to intentionally train your leaders to let them know, create a buzz, or whenever people get here, get out there, go talk to people. Don't bombard them and get all in their face and be a little scary. But at the same time, walk up, shake their hand, introduce yourself, show them a flaw. I would always wear goofy socks, and I'd pick up and show them that I was wearing no socks or goofy socks just to make them laugh, because I want them to know that I'm human and to know that I'm a part of a family that works really hard to live our life together. But we had to have intentional meetings and intentional planning to actually going out and sit, because I may like to talk to people, but I'm not necessarily the one that wants to approach a stranger, get in their face and say, hi, I'm Cyler, but if I can be intentional with my desire and realize the benefits of that intentionality, then things could get pretty awesome. It's our job as ministers to help pull out the individual purposes of the people that come into our facilities, our churches. We must be intentional in our relationships to make sure as leaders that we are directing them or encouraging them to seek after their purpose and how they can fulfill their purpose in serving through the church. So in your relationships that you have with the friends that you have at church, enjoy your time with them. Go to the movies, go out to eat, do fun things, but at the same time, help direct them to the appropriate ministry. She said sweet spot, I think, or something like that. It was perfect earlier. Help them to discover their purpose, not just in the church, but by fulfilling their purpose in the church, they take that, but from having to do it regularly, and they start doing it in their everyday life. And that's what it's really all about. It's not just about making sure we have a functional church, but making sure that we're learning at the church to be able to take it into our everyday lives. And that's our purpose as leaders and as pastors, is to help them discover their purpose, help them to practice their purpose so that they can take what they're called to do into their everyday life.
And honestly, I think if we all think about it, we can see kind of the negative side effects of not getting people plugged in. One of two things will happen. Either they'll leave, or they will find a way to negatively impact the church because they'll be bored. They won't know what to do, so they'll just start doing things, and it can cause a lot of chaos. It's our job as people who are leaders, who are part of the discipling process for people. We have to be able to get them plugged in. We have to see value in people, even sometimes the hard people, because if they're at our church, then they're our responsibility. Their purpose is our responsibility, and we have to take that as a really heavy job.
And especially as we get people in, we're very limited with our time. You can't spend every second of every day with every person in the church. You can't have a lunch scheduled every single day with a different family in the church. And as those prophetic words come to life, and as more and more and more families come to Jesus as part of the church that you're involved in, you're not going to have time to go out with each family. Yeah. So you have to train your leaders on how to make those authentically intentional relationships as well, so that they can be, in a sense, multiply the effect that person would have had if they would have went out to lunch with you. But now you've got 50 leaders that are seeking out relationships themselves, and they're helping to mentor people themselves and doing awesome stuff too.
And if we're training up our leaders to go out and build those relationships ourselves or theirself, then we won't see any gaps as growth comes in, because people are just going to keep duplicating themselves, keep teaching the importance of relationships. That keeps all of the weight off of the pastors are off of, the select few leaders that can do it right now. It allows for there to be more of a family environment in your church, as opposed to I walk in, I sit on my pew, I might serve in Sunday school or something, and then I leave.
Beneficial relationships aren't always the ones that bring you the most pleasure. I learned really hard that relationships aren't necessarily just the ones that I really enjoy being around all the time. Those aren't the relationships that I always need. I need relationships of people that are encouraging me, pushing me up, making sure that I'm focused on where I'm going in my life. And then I also need relationships of where I'm pouring into people myself, where I'm challenged and I'm having to learn new things in order to be able to benefit and help them.
Small groups, in our opinion, are a really great way to get people plugged in. And it doesn't have to be, special interest groups right now. If you're in a smaller congregation, most churches we come in contact with, they at least have a women's ministry. They have a men's ministry. They have a youth ministry. They have a children's ministry. Those are great groundwork for small groups. And they allow for a lot of personal interaction with people. I don't see a lot of conversation happening in a congregation setting on a Sunday morning. Where are you going to get your face-to-face conversation? In your small groups? Women are going to get to know women when they're around women, and there's an atmosphere for conversation. Same with men, same with youth, same with kids. Small groups are a really great way to start easing into building relationships with people.
Like Danielle said earlier, we are people. We're people-centered people. We are leaders and pastors that volunteer our times in churches because we recognize the impact that God has had on our lives, and we know that he's capable of doing it in others' lives. We sent out a book inside of your box, and it's called Good or God. You're going to have to eat the meat and spit out the bones, but it is a awesome book. Almost said delicious because I was talking about food. It's an awesome book, and it really does help people reevaluate their purpose. I am definitely a person that gets lost in the good. I'll be like, well, this is good and this is good. I could spend my whole life out on the streets feeding a homeless person, but if you're out there not doing what you're called to do and you're just doing good things, then you're not going to be able to fulfill the full purpose that God has set out for you. Just because it's good does not mean it's God. And this book is an excellent resource to help you narrow out where you're supposed to be going in life so that you can get yourself directed better.
We're going to have to do a plug for our students real quick because we're youth pastors,
Yes.
and that's where our heart's at.
Yeah.
And it's a really good time to talk about investing in the time you have with your students.
Yeah, we only get them for maybe 6 years, and that's if you stay at the same church serving in the same position for 6 years.
Right.
We all know how probable that is. Now, if you stay doing that for 6 years, then you see them twice a week for those 6 years. And if they come into your little sanctuary or wherever you're set up to have your youth ministry, we have them tell us all the time, well, they won't listen when I preach, probably because they don't need you to preach. That may be a little bit hard. Preaching is very necessary. Letting them know the word and walking them through it is so necessary. But we are here to disciple them. So I challenge you to consider this. Maybe the most important thing isn't you preaching. Maybe it's the relationship. Maybe you should spend more time in the relationship that you have with the kids, doing extracurricular things, and like inviting them over to your house, letting them have a personal feel on your life so that you can grow closer to them, but then also challenging them spiritually by offering outside things. One resource we wanted to tell you all about that's been out there that we've known about but we haven't had a chance to use yet until recently is the Bible app. Everybody's got it. It's the version or something like that. It's just the little brown Bible app that people use a lot of times. Well, in it, there's a resource for, what's it called?
Like
The word's gone.
devotions.
Yeah, little devotions. You can go in there, and there's one that actually says youth. There's ones for adults. There's ones on worship. There's ones on, and they're created from ministries all over the world. And they put together this, not really curriculum, but these devotions that you can do daily. So now we've got our youth group to where each day they are opening up that app. They're reading 2 scriptures and a small devotion. And even though you may say, okay, that's like 5 minutes of their day, that's not going to have a huge impact. If you knew the power of our subconscious, then that statement wouldn't be true to you. Our subconscious is so powerful. And if they have a chance, even if it's only for 5 minutes every single day, to have the word inside of them, that is going to impact them more than coming twice a week and hearing you preach for 20 minutes.
Also, on a practical way to get your students connected and invest good quality time in them, don't just look at them as kids. Let them get plugged into ways to serve in your services. If they can play an instrument, let them play an instrument, and don't treat them like a kid. Hold them to the same standard you hold your adults to. Give them ways to serve, so that way whenever they graduate, they get to that fork in the road where they decide, am I going to keep going to church, or now that I don't have to, I can go do my own thing. We want them to have a reason to stay. We want them to have found a purpose. So invest in your students, not just in your youth ministry, but as a congregation. Really pour into them, train them, let them know that they have a purpose even as a child.
Yep. So the main thing we wanted you guys to get out of it today is to evaluate your relationships. Determine if the relationships are ones that are truly benefiting your ministry, benefiting your purpose, benefiting your church, everything that you've got going on, and make sure that you are focused and driven to pursue the appropriate kind of relationship. Remember, people who are amped to serve and stay in a church, because people are amped to serve and stay inside of a church because of relationships, more so than obligation. They feel, when they think about what the ministries need, that whole sentence is just wrong. I would be the one to mess up my closing statement. I would be the one. Anyways, I'm the youth pastor, so I don't even have to finish it. So, yeah, there you go. Happy birthday.